Good evening, everyone. How are you? Excuse me, I just got some business to attend to. Oh, magic. Right. Anyway, hope you've all had, a reasonably good week. Let's just scroll back up through the chat and see who was first in. David Evans, how are you, mate? Then we've got Grandpa Joe, Michael Palmer. How are you, Michael? Michael's still trying, God help us. That was, let me put you up on screen, Michael. That was a tune that I wrote for Michael in his lesson on Monday. And we were thinking of a title, and he says, oh, God help us. So that became the title of the tune. Hope it's going okay, mate. Who else we got in? Jeff Rock. Yes, really enjoyed that look around Malcolm's guitar collection. It was rather spiffing, wasn't it? Podrig's in. Off this week, but as it's a wife's birthday, I'm prepared to take her out for dinner. Have a great time, all. Well, you take your missus out, mate, and have a blinking good evening. Sean House, Lee Morano, Malcolm Spillett. Malcolm, thank you once again for showing me your guitar collection. I await the recordings of the Ferrocaster, that wrought iron Telecaster. Genuinely curious to hear how that sounds. Johnny Random's in, and Vincent Brennan, Chip Young, and who else we got? David Evans. I've mentioned David Evans already, haven't I? I'm sorry to hear that, mate. David Evans, depression getting the better of me, out of work and skint and struggling. I've been there, mate. I honestly have. 5 years ago, it was doubtful whether we could keep a roof over our heads. Such was the state of things, but there are ways through. If you want me to kind of, tell you how we did it, how we managed to sort of keep body and soul together and, ways round things that seem unsurpassable, then drop me an email over the weekend and I'll happily share our experience with you, mate, and maybe you might find one or two things in there that might be helpful. It's up to you, mate. Anyway, back to the plot. Deco dude's in. You've Colin Falcon, yes, that's your Telecaster in the background there, isn't it, Colin? That lovely white and black and gold Squire, which I've been playing today. That's going to be the topic of an upcoming video. Ian Clark's in. How are you, Ian? Mate, well, I know because we were talking earlier, weren't we? Peter Collins, Anton's in. Edwin Toonan, Grandpa Joe, nice to see you, mate. The Time Prophet. Vince Bangs, nice to see you in, mate. And who else we got? Nancy Davis, Nigel Arthur. Dave Lewis is in. And Ian Rouse, Johnny Random, and Andy Hawke, Ian Geddes, Brad Matthews, Steve Lamb, and who else we got? Cornucopia, greetings from Moscow, Russia. Rock on, says Vasily. Well, greetings from what is an unseasonably warm and sunny Redcar on the northeast coast of England today. Robert Ball's revisiting McEwen's Export after a 30-year break. It's not as bad as I remember. Yes, I remember McEwen's Export. I haven't seen that for ages. I was always quite fond of a drop of that stuff, but it's not a beer I remember seeing in a long time, and I don't remember when I stopped seeing it. So anyway. Hello from the mountains of North Carolina, says Rion Odom. I hope I pronounced your name correctly there, mate. Anyway, excuse me, all of this talking. I've done a lot of talking today. I'll tell you why in a minute, but it's left me rather parched, so excuse me. Yes, as I say, a lot of talking today. I did Jan Karlberg's in. Sorry I missed you there, mate. Das Schaff, yes, all the usual crowd, really, isn't it? Our happy band of brothers and sisters. Let me just put you up on screen there, Vince, because that's a great question. Hi, John. What's your biggest ever learning curve as a guitarist? My most recent one is to never change the guitar strings with a cat in the room. Yes. Biggest learning curve of that nature would be, yeah, I suppose, never try and restring a guitar with a Bigsby on it when you're in a hurry, because dear me, that is, I mean, it's not quite as bad as restringing a Floyd Rose guitar, but it ain't far off. So that one would probably count. Yes, but today I've done the first dress rehearsal, shall we call it, of the blues masterclass. And it panned out at about 3.5 hours, but that was kind of pretty much steamrolling through it. I had an audience of one who knows who he is. He's in the chat tonight. And we just kind of steamrolled through it. So I'm thinking allowing for breaks and a bit of a Q&A and that sort of stuff. It's going to come out nearer probably 4 to 4.5 hours in total. So now you know how much time you need to set aside if you're interested in partaking of this. And the next question people are probably going to ask is, when is it going to take place? Well, it's going to take place when I know what's happening with the whole hospital situation and everything. I've got an appointment on Wednesday, and then depending on the outcome of that phone call, that phone appointment, I will be able to start nailing things down in the schedule. So that's what we're talking about. In case you haven't heard about this blues masterclass, what I'm doing is I'm doing an online Zoom thing which is like blues right from the ground up, right from basic sort of what the chord sequence is of a 12-bar blues, what the minor pentatonic scale is, all the way up through the kind of towards the sort of Mixolydian mode, Dorian mode, chord note targeting, double stops, and all the sort of jazzy Robin Ford sort of stuff all the way through. And as I say, it's going to take probably about 4 to 4.5 hours to get through it at a comfortable pace, having breaks for, comfort breaks and stuff like that. And it's going to be £75 for a ticket. And if you're one of my Patreon supporters, it will be a discounted price of £50. And it's all going to be done on Zoom. And you get tabs of solos, you get backing tracks, you get videos of solos, you get PDFs of all the necessary fingerings and shapes and everything, basically everything you need. And you also get some lesson notes that I type up during the lesson and share my screen with you. And you get a video of the lesson, of the whole thing to keep. So that's what that is. Numbers will be limited to about 12 participants, because that's a nice, comfortable number to do a big Zoom meeting with. And I'll keep you posted and let you know when all of this is going to be available. My best guess is going to be sort of November, back end of November, sometime like that. But anyway, that is what's going on. What kind of skill level are you looking at for the masterclass? Well, it says Vincent Brennan. It's basically from the ground up. As long as you have some experience of doing basic meat and potatoes lead guitar stuff like hammer-ons and string bends and pull-offs, and if you can read tab, or even if you can't, because I go through a little bit of how to look at the tab and how to interpret it in the class. But the point is, it's for people who are comfortable with playing a little bit of lead guitar, and then we just kind of progress through. What will not happen is you will not become a fantastic blues guitar player at the end of this 4-hour masterclass, because things take practice, and that is down to you. But what you will get is a big old in tray full of stuff that you need to practice, and you'll know why you're practicing it, and you'll have goals and targets to work towards, to be able to get as good as you want to get, really. Hi, John. Greetings from Essex. I have a bottle of TEA, Traditional English Ale, a lovely amber brew. Not heard of that one. And let's put you up on screen there, Chris, while I get another beer out of the cool bag. Have to say, John's Patreon membership is an absolute bargain. $3 a month, and now a huge discount on the blues course. Well, it's just my way of saying thank you, really. You're helping me keep the channel going, and helping me make a living, basically, by pitching in your $3 a month or £2.50, and it is massively appreciated. And that's why I like to put so much content up, and share it with you chaps. And I enjoy doing it. It's as I often say, it beats working for a living. Is this the beginning of the John Robson Guitar Dojo? Now, help me out here, right? Because this is something I've been meaning to ask, and I've never ever. I've always forgotten about it, but I keep seeing this word dojo around. Like, there's that mate of Rick Beato, which Dave Honorato, isn't he? Who comes up with? He's from a company called Dojo Guitar Repairs, and there's this dojo and that. What on earth does dojo mean? Is this some kind of thing that, like, a crusty old, fat, bald, middle-aged, 50-odd-year-old northern lad has just missed out on? I don't know. No, it's not a new beer, mate. It's Galahad. This is the Aldi 4% lager, which I was up at Aldi yesterday and I stocked up on this. And for a 4% lager, it's not a bad thing. Okay. Dojo is where you train in martial arts. I did not know that. I didn't know that's what a martial arts training place was called. Let me put you up on screen. Where's that gone? I've lost the. Yeah, someone was asking there, and I don't know what happened. There we go, Dave Pegg. Question: Les Paul tuning problems plus wrapping strings over the top of your tailpiece. Thoughts? I've never, on any of the Les Pauls or Les Paul style guitars I've owned, I've never ever top wrapped over the tailpiece, because it's just never occurred to me to do that. I know some people say that it lessens the string tension and makes the strings slinkier to play, but at least one guitarist, Robert Baker, I'm sure you're all familiar with his channel, did a video about how that had exactly the opposite effect on his Les Paul. He top wrapped, and it made the guitar pretty much impossible to play. The string tension was so much stiffer like that. I don't know. I think it's one of those things, possibly, that people see a famous guitarist, maybe their hero, doing it, and suddenly, well, if he does it, I'll do it. So I'm sure there's a little bit of that involved. In terms of the tonal effects, I don't know. That might be something I should do in a video, because I've got a nice Les Paul copy here. So let's see if that, what difference that makes. In terms of tuning problems on a Les Paul, it's not something I've ever really noticed massively, I'll be honest. I have this method that I've shown in a couple of videos where I tie the strings off on the tuning peg that effectively gives the same sort of tuning stability as locking tuners. So whether that's kind of, or maybe having locking tuners, maybe that's a thing. Having the strings locked at the tuning peg, whether that helps or not, I don't know. I know a lot of people say that it's down to the angle that the strings go through the nut. Again, it's not something that I've ever really noticed gives me a massive problem. Tuning stability on 3-a-side headstocks. It is something that people talk about, but it's not something I have a massive amount of experience of. So there you go. And always keep your nuts lubricated, says Peter Collins. Yes, indeed. Who misses. Yes, I just want to say a big shout out there to Scott Guitars, Dan from Scott Guitars. He's I told you last week, didn't I? And I forgot to share the pictures, but my signature guitar, serial number 003, is complete, and I believe it's gone on its way to its new owner. It's been released into the wild, and what a gorgeous looking guitar it is. You're getting better with every build, mate. If I get some spare cash, or if the missus can live without a holiday next year, don't tell her I said that, but we may be talking about another one. Oh, who's that? Who's off to see Paul Heaton? Das Schaff. Paul Heaton, yes, the beautiful South. But yeah, I mean, he is, well, he's a great songwriter, isn't he? I mean, I got to be honest with you. When the beautiful South first came out, I was that was the early 90s, wasn't it? And it was that I Love You From the Bottom of My Pencil case, that song. And I thought, what? This isn't for me. But gradually, they were one of those bands that sort of grew on me. And, I was listening to a best of theirs on Spotify or wherever this morning. I was listening to a best of theirs this morning when my eyes were still half open and I was, consuming my first coffee. After the House Martins, yes, indeed, that was it. Cancel the holiday, it makes sense. Yeah, well, I might have some work to do there. We haven't had a holiday since 2015, so there is the argument that says, well, what's another year? There is the, anyway, we shall see. I mean, just looking around here at the moment, it's hard to make the case that I need another guitar. There's 1, 2, let's just count the guitars that are mine in the office, okay? So there's the Harley Benton Les Paul copy. There's the Larry Carlton Sire. That's 2. 3 is the Harley Benton Strat copy. There's the bass there. That's 4. There's Frankenstein Telecaster. There's the that's 5. There's the Harley Benton CST 24 acoustic Nashville Telecaster. The Sub-Zero P90 Tele. There's my signature guitar. And there's the Glary there. So those are my guitars. I might be stretching it a bit to get away with saying I need another one. Let me put you up on screen there, Dave. Apparently 1 in 3 homes in the UK has a Beautiful South album. I didn't know that. But I suspect, does anybody else have this phenomenon? Dark Side of the Moon, that album. I've always owned a copy and I don't ever remember buying it. I don't ever remember going into a record shop and buying Dark Side of the Moon. It's just always an album that's just there in your collection somewhere or other. And that was, so I suspect this. Bat Out of Hell was another one. I've had that album for years, haven't listened to it in years, because frankly, apart from the title track, it's a bit naff, isn't it? James White says, run a few more blues masterclasses. I'm sure they're well over 12 a Z right now will sign up. That'll help your guitar budget. Yes, indeed, yes. If it goes well, this blues masterclass, I am thinking of making it something that happens on a regular basis, or maybe some kind of masterclass on a regular basis, because what do I get asked for most in lessons? Well, blues, and I want to be able to play lead guitar, so just basic entry-level lead guitar stuff, and modes. So I reckon if I did, a rotating roster of those 3 masterclasses, it would probably work reasonably well. I'd love to do it in person as well. I'd love to kind of be the guy stood up in hiring a room in a Marriott or a kind of some chain hotel somewhere, and with a whiteboard and an amp and an audience full of appreciative people. That would be a cool thing to do, but Zoom is a pretty close second, I suppose. Yeah, there's another one there. Have Darkside as an album, don't remember getting it, says Lee. Let's do it, get a room sorted and crack on. We could do one together, couldn't we, Steve? Yes. We'd have to, let's have a talk about that, mate, actually. I think I'd have to say my favourite Beatles album is The Best of the Beatles. Which one, though? Because there are several. There's the Blue album, and which one's the double album? Is it I think it's the Red album that's a single album, and the Blue album is the double album, isn't it? You will be getting an email later, John, from someone you haven't seen in years. John, you borrowed my Dark Side of the Moon album record in 1978. Can I have it back, please? I almost took you seriously there, mate. Red is double too, is it? Okay. My favourite is Abbey Road, but that was an Alan Partridge quote. If I had to pick my favourite Beatles album, it would be. Am I allowed two? Because I always think of them as one album. It would be Rubber Soul and Revolver. I always think of that as because they work as a double album. If you just think of them as one kind of complete work, it's like there's an arc across those 2 albums that for me works as a double album. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but that's certainly how I view them. If I had to pick one of the 2 out of them, dear me, today it would be Rubber Soul, but ask me again tomorrow, it might be Revolver. Yeah, I see a few people in the chat there are saying that they're not fussed on the Beatles, and I kind of get that. Well, I do and I don't. I mean, we are all individuals, and we can all like what we like, and we can all dislike what we dislike. Fair enough. But the one thing that the Beatles did, which is undeniable, and you can still say, okay, I acknowledge that, but I'm not fond of their music, is that they saved rock and roll. When you think about where rock and roll was in, say, the late 50s, early 60s, Elvis in the army, Big Bopper, Richie Valens, and Buddy Holly dead, Jerry Lee Lewis in disgrace, Chuck Berry in disgrace, Little Richard had gone back to the church. What were you left with? You were left with Pat Boone, and Fabian and all that kind of stuff. And then along come the Beatles, and just, out came this raw, kind of raggedy-ass rock and roll again, which they then, kind of started incorporating the songwriting kind of tricks and traditions of Cole Porter and Irving Berlin into the mix as well. And, I think that's what set them apart. You cannot deny they were influential. Without the Beatles, you would not have had Queen. You would not have had ABBA. You would not have had ELO. You would not have had Bowie or Bowie, however you want to pronounce his name. All of those people, all of those bands and artists, you take their songs apart and you can see Beatles chord changes in them and Beatles melodies and stuff. So, they were massively influential, and you can acknowledge that and still say, well, yeah, but I don't like their music, which is fair enough. You know, we're all allowed to like and dislike what we want, but I like them. So there you go. You get the feeling Paul loved a show tune, says Sean. Yes, indeed. Would you have had the Beatles without George Martin? You probably would, but I definitely think, I mean, people call Billy Preston the fifth Beatle, don't they? But, you know, George Martin was, to coin it, to use a pun, instrumental in their development. You know, it was... There's a story, actually, that George Martin himself told, which was that because none of the Beatles read music, he wanted a way to communicate with them musically. So he started learning to play the guitar. So he could, you know, kind of map out some ideas and say, look, try this, or have you thought about this, or, you know. And by the time he'd, you know, got some rudimentary basics down on the guitar, both John and Paul were better piano players than he was a guitar player. So, I don't know, you don't just pick up an instrument, you kind of go to an instrument that you've never played before and develop that quickly on it like they did on piano without some massive amount of talent, I think. You make a good point there, Craig. Evening, by the way. I didn't see you in earlier. Yes, minimum flake, says Anton. I appreciate the Beatles because they were great songwriters and there would be no metal without them because Black Sabbath were influenced by them. I hadn't thought of that, but I suppose you're right. You know, well, I know you're right because I've probably read the same interview with Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler that you're referencing there. So yeah, good point, mate. Oh, Time Prophet says I play guitar, but have also played some keyboard by ear. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, once you know whether you know the book learning terms, as I call it, or not, you know, for music theory, whether you know what a perfect fourth is or a major third or something like that. Basically, if you know what those things are, even if you don't know the technical terms for them, because you've figured them out on the guitar, then I suppose it is, you know, kind of doable, much more doable than starting from scratch to apply those things to another instrument. One of my earliest memories was walking up Camden High Street holding my mum's hand, singing "I Want to Hold Your Hand." Early 60s, I was about 3. Oh, good for you, mate. Please, let's put it up on screen because I can read it easier. Please share some memories of the early days of your career. What kind of music was most popular back then and what you like to play the most? Thank you. Okay. Well, let's go down memory lane a little bit then. Okay, right. Probably when I actually first started playing, my first gig, if you like, was a school assembly. And we played there was an awful Eurovision song. I can't remember the lass's name, but she was a German lass and she won Eurovision that year with a song called A Little Piece. I think she was called Nina or something like that or whatever. And we played that. Our little school band played that in the school assembly. And then at the end of the assembly, as everyone's filing out, we just kind of looked at each other and we went into a version of Johnny Be Good, completely impromptu, doing the old Status Quo kind, Chuck Berry kind of da-da kind of thing like that. And the music teacher came walking towards us. I thought, hello, we're in for a telling off here. But he just sat down at the piano and started jamming with us and played like some great honky-tonk solos and stuff. And by the time we finished, the hall was empty. Not the last time that happened, by the way, in my career. So that was my first gig, and then probably when I first, that will have been what, probably about 83-ish, and then there was college and stuff, and I was in one or two bands there that never really came to anything and what have you. But it was sort of the late 80s, early 90s when I first started doing gigs proper, and I was playing like on what's called the club circuit in the northeast of England, which is infamous in the UK for having difficult audiences, shall we say. And I don't want to give too many spoilers away because I'm planning a video on kind of tales from the road, as it were. But there was one time the band played an entire second half of a gig to a dog that was asleep. That was one. And the sort of music we were playing back then, this will have been like the early 90s, and it was Bon Jovi, it was Chesney Hawkes, that was a big hit at the time, I Am the One and Only, Deacon Blue. It was all the top 40 stuff from the early 90s. So just look up what was, kind of in the charts back in those days, and that was probably stuff that we played. So yeah, he was a cool music teacher. Tough crowd, thank you for your applause. Indeed. My first band played punk and ska covers. Yeah, I mean, I was in bands where we did all of the usual sort of stuff, I mean, back in the early 80s, I remember one of the songs that every school band did, probably every pub band did, was Doctor Doctor by UFO, because that's like a real sort of apprenticeship power chord tune, isn't it? I still use it to this day when I'm teaching students to play power chords. Chesney Hawkes came to the Hereford Leisure Centre and he couldn't sell it out. Poor lad. I wonder what he's doing now. Let's have a look at the chat, see what I've missed while I've been blethering. Will the masterclass be available to buy on catch up? I have a crippling anxiety, but I've played for 20 years and playing live is just not possible at the moment. Well, I've never thought about that. I mean, I suppose because there's going to be a recording of the event, I suppose I can make that recording available as a download, if but to answer what I think is your wider point, 2 words, John, cargo fleet. Yes, I'll come back to that. To answer what I think is your wider point there, there won't be any. It'll be mainly me playing during the masterclass. You're not going to be playing in front of an audience of a dozen people. It's going to be me that's doing the playing and the explaining. You're going to be, hopefully sitting in rapt attention and, kind of taking on board the information. It's not going to be like, okay, and now it's your turn to play. So don't worry about that. What's that, Dave? We used to have those wooden built like a tank record players. I think the Danset was the brand, wasn't it? At school, you could plug electric guitar and bass guitars to in the late 60s. Brilliant piece of kit. Yeah, well, I mean, I must admit, my first amplifier was my Amstrad Hi-Fi. Yes, who was it earlier? I think it was. I can't remember. Someone mentioned Cargo Fleet. Cargo Fleet is an area of Middlesbrough, which is the big town on Teesside, and it has a notorious working men's club there, where it's. I mean, we played there once, and we came out, and the band van, the tyres had been slashed. just because it was there and somebody could do it, and it was, that's the kind of thing that happens in Cargo Fleet. Yeah, tough audiences, it has to be said. Someone said there, Nick Kershaw wrote "I Am the One and Only" for Chesney Hawkes. He did, and that song. If you don't remember it, it was just massive in about 1991. It was just probably one of the biggest songs of the year. And this guy Chesney Hawkes was like, he was going to be like a huge star. And that song was just like, that's it. That's your one hit. Goodbye. You're not having any more. His follow-up song didn't even break the top 20. I think it just about made the top 40, but it was just nothing. And then like suddenly he's nowhere. Let's see what I'm missing here. The One and Only sounds just like Nick Kershaw. Yeah, well, because it was, as has already been said, it was him who wrote it. He was we tend to think of Nick Kershaw and what was the other guy? Howard Jones, from that period, as we thought of them at the time as being just throwaway pop stars, kind of teeny bopper material. But, wouldn't we kill for somebody like that now? Somebody who is, kind of regularly in the charts and, writes their own songs, plays instruments, produces their own material. I suppose Ed Sheeran, you could say that of, but, he's hardly the representative of pop music these days. It's very much just, the whole kind of cowl thing, isn't it? Anyway, I'm not sure Chesney Hawkes could play the song live for years because of some legal issues. That would be a shame. Chesney Hawkes did a film with Roger Daltrey, didn't he? Yes, it was called Buddy's Song, I think, where Roger Daltrey played his dad, I believe, and awful film. Awful, dreadful film. But that song was, from I Am the One and Only was from that song. Let me see. Greta Van Fleet, yes, Robert, fantastic band. One of their most recent album, I don't know if it's that. When was it? Was it this year or was it last year? The Battle at Gardens Gate is a fantastic album. You can hear them growing into themselves. There was a lot of criticism with the first album from the Fires that they were just a Zeppelin rip-off band. But, much like the Black Crowes, who, when their first album came out, they were written off as just a Stones clone, weren't they? But, as they progressed, they became more their own identity. And I think that's happening to Greta Van Fleet. It's been 20 odd years since I cared what was in the charts. As little as that, Ian. Yes. I think the last time I knew what the number one record was at any given moment was probably, do you remember in the 80s when Jackie Wilson's Reet Petite got reissued and made it to number one? I think it was off the back of one of those Levi's ads that were using all the old kind of 60s soul tunes at the time. Heard it on the grapevine. That was another one, wasn't it? With a bloke in the laundrette washing his jeans. But that was probably the last time I knew what was at number one. Get off the fence about that film. Yeah, it's an awful film. No, I haven't, mate. I shall have to look that up. Robert's there saying, have you seen the clip on YouTube of Robert Plant talking about them? I haven't. I'm presuming you mean Greta Van Fleet. Be interesting to hear what he has to say because, I mean, let's not be coy here. Led Zeppelin weren't kind of shy of borrowing the odd song from somebody else or the odd musical idea from somebody else worthy. They were, and they got criticised for it, but they did what they did, and so there you go. I remember when Iron Maiden were number 3 with "Can I Play with Madness." That is actually another Iron Maiden reference. I remember there was a strategy that Iron Maiden employed to get "Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter" to number 1, and I remember it was quite controversial because the BBC refused to play it at the time. Plant said, "Yeah, I've heard them, and they sound like a lot like a band I knew." Where are we? Dire Straits and Chris Rea supergroup. That would be interesting. I remember when I heard, what was it, "Road to Hell" by Chris Rea. When I first heard the intro before Chris's voice came in, I thought, is this a new Dire Straits record? Anyway, excuse me, I need more drink. Oh dear me, this is the last can. It's not the last one. There's a fridge full of them downstairs. It's the last one I brought upstairs with us. Yes. Here we go. Excuse me, I'm trying to get a reasonable pour out of this, and I know you're all going to shout flake at me in a second anyway, but this Galahad doesn't pour too bad. It's much better than that bloody awful Carling, which I'll probably be back on again at some point. It depends if I can get up to Aldi or not. Where are we? Yes. Oh, sorry, yes, I missed the obvious one there, didn't I? Dire Straits, Chris Rea, diarrhea, indeed. Bidadumsh. Yes, thank you very much. I'm here all week. Try the veal. So, let's see what else I've missed as I've been blethering. First album I bought on tape, this is Johnny Random. Let's put you up on the screen, Johnny. First album I bought on tape was Killers because Eddie was a big cardboard cutout in the shop. Big fan ever since, got every album, love them. What, even the Blaze Bayley era, Johnny? That was a bit sort of a bit of a fallow patch, really, wasn't it? I remember seeing, if anybody remembers, the glorious UK institution that was Tiswas on a Saturday morning. You were either a Tiswas kind of guy or a swap shop kind of kid, weren't you? I was very much Tiswas, it has to be said. Kids Saturday morning TV programs, for those who don't remember. And I remember seeing the video for Run to the Hills on Tiswas, and it was just the best thing I'd ever seen. And at the time, I was into like Brian Setzer and the Stray Cats and all of that kind of stuff. And I didn't have much time for these noisy heavy metal louts, but that just blew me away. And I was an Iron Maiden fan from there on in, really. Yes, Ian's talking about Sally James. Sally was one of the hosts of Tiswas, and she was a good-looking girl in the day, was Sally James, and she used to wear rather revealing tops. Chapel hat pegs spring to mind. Anyway, yeah. So that was a big motivation for a lot of adolescent young boys to watch Tiswas on a Saturday morning rather than Swap Shop. Chesney Hawkes now lives in LA with his American missus and their 3 kids. No wonder nobody's heard from him lately. Well, I mean, he's obviously quite happy with himself then, isn't he? He's got himself settled, he's got a family life, and he's not, probably if you can afford to live in LA, then you're obviously not short of a bob or two. Um, my mate at school changed the Iron Maiden song lyrics to "Can I play with Mandy?" as he liked a girl in the fifth form. Okay, yeah, we've all done that, haven't we? Um, Oh, okay, Johnny, you like the Blazer era. Don't know why he gets all the bollocks everyone gives him. It wasn't Bruce. Get over it. Well, fair enough. It was a bit of a change of direction for the band. They didn't sound the same without Bruce. And, possibly I'm going to say something controversial here, but it is my heartfelt opinion, so I'm just going to say it. I never liked Paul Di'Anno. I never liked I just didn't think he was a particularly good singer, to be honest. I think, once they got Bruce in the band, and then obviously when Nico joined after, Clive left, that was, for me, that's just like, there are various bands that have had lineup changes. You think about the classic lineup of Purple, for instance, which is, John Lord, Ian Pace, Roger Glover, Richie Blackmore, and Ian Gillan. You think of that as the classic lineup of Purple. Well, for me, the classic lineup of Maiden is, Bruce and Nico and the lads. And for me, that's it. I know that wasn't Number of the Beast because Clive was still with them then, wasn't he? But for me, that for me is when they just, they just hit their stride, and they were a great band. And yeah, well, they still are, Okay, you loved Paul Di'Anno's voice, did you, Anton? But Bruce is better. Yeah, well, I don't know. There was just some sort of, I don't know, nasal quality about Paul's voice that I just never really kind of like. And I don't think, I mean, their songwriting as well. Yeah, I mean, Women in Uniform is not as good a song as Run to the Hills, I would venture. They developed musically as well, I think, once Bruce had joined the band. Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son, Epic Era. Yes, I would agree with you, mate. You've probably all seen the Flight 666 documentary, which it's only just occurred to me that was 13 years ago. That was 2008. But I watched it again a couple of weeks ago. What a fantastic film. And the thing that you get from watching that is, they've had their ups and the downs, and people have left and people have come back, Adrian as well as Bruce. But when you watch that movie, there is just such a sense of they're more than a band, those lads. They're a family, and you get the feeling they would all kind of, they've all got each other's backs, basically. There's a real sense of camaraderie there, and they know that, that they are part of something bigger than them. Or certainly that's the impression that movie gave me. And, Bruce, when he's in that film, when he's talking about, you get to a point. This is where I actually laughed out loud at that movie. You get to a point on tour where you've been away from home for so long, and you just want a curry. You just want a curry, and you organise it, and you get this curry flown in from the UK, and and you're satisfied, and then after the tour you think, I paid $5,000 to get a curry sent to Rio de Janeiro or somewhere. So he really does have a great way of kind of illustrating the what it's like on the road. And there are elements in that movie of like, well, this is Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap wasn't an exaggeration. That's another movie I shall have to watch again at some point. Any chance of a review of the 15-watt Harley Benton tube compo that everyone is raving about? In a word, yes. Watch this space. I'm getting sort of geared up to do a few amp reviews, and that is one that is, well, I wouldn't say, on the list. It's at the top of the list to do. So yes, that one is definitely going to be something that you will see on this channel at some point in the near to middle future. So yes. Do you ever turn up to 11? I do, because I've got this volume control. You can't see it, but down here on the desk there is a volume control, and I've marked, which is for the studio monitors that I use, and I've marked the halfway point on it, which is as loud as I can ever go in this room, as 11. So yes, I do turn up to 11. Would love to hear you. What's that? Would love to hear you review the Spark amp. I've very nearly pulled the trigger on the Spark amp, but two things have put me off. One, the reviews of it are usually either absolutely stellar, this is the best amp I've ever played through, this is fantastic, this does everything, this is great, or utterly awful. People say that there's loud hissing noises and buzzing noises. There are grounding issues that some people have had with it. So it's not an insignificant purchase. All of the stuff that I review is stuff that I buy. I don't go cap in hand to dealers or retailers or manufacturers and say, please send me something for free. And if I were to do that, I would tell you. So it would have to be something that I bought. And secondly, if I was going to buy it, it would have to be something that I would think, well, yeah, this is something I would probably use. But then I look at all the features on it, and like the big thing on it is that it's by Positive Grid, and I love their amp sims. I use them all the time. I use Bias Amp for loads of stuff. So I know it's got those sounds in it, but then again, I've already got those sounds. So I'd be paying for something that I've already got. And the other features on it, like the kind of jam along, where you can strum a chord sequence into it and it'll turn it into a jam track that you can play along with. I genuinely don't know how much I would use that. So I would be paying for something that, the features that I would like, I've already got, and the other features I probably wouldn't use. And there's been lots of, well, not lots of, but there's been a significant number of negative reviews about, about the sound of it in terms of its grounding and stuff. Yeah, Anton, I'm with you. Let me just get the webcam here and pick it up and show you. The behind the beer cans there, I've got the Yamaha THR as well, and that's a great little amp. I use it all the time. Use it in lessons. Use it in some of the videos. For those parts of the video where I'm doing a solo analysis and I'm kind of talking you through it. That's what I use that for. Speaking of which, videos and stuff on the channel, I haven't told you what's coming up this week, have I? I'm very much remiss. I usually get that out the way at the top of the video. This week on the channel we have, well, there's no video tomorrow because it's Saturday and I don't always put videos up on a Saturday. Sometimes I do, but treat those as a bonus when they happen. Sunday we are looking at possibly the most versatile guitar I've ever played. It'll sound like a Telecaster, it'll sound like a Strat, it'll sound like a Les Paul, it'll sound like pretty much anything. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Then on Monday we are looking at Whisper It, an Eagles song. We're looking at the solo from an Eagles song, not Hotel California, because I did that one years ago, and I have a bit of a policy that I don't go back to the same solo twice. So we're looking at an Eagle solo on Monday. Tuesday, we're talking about the 5 most influential guitar tones ever recorded. Now, I've done this kind of thing before where I've talked about my favourite guitar tones or my favourite Strat tones or favourite Les Paul tones. This one's a bit different because this is all about the guitar tone, which is a combination of a guitar and an amplifier. So it's like the 5 most influential guitar tones that are a combination of this guitar into that amplifier. Tones that have influenced people, hence influential. Tones that once they were recorded, people thought, I want to sound like that. And that became, a big sound that everyone was using, a big tone that everyone was using for, a good period of time after. Then on Wednesday, I have another kind of lesson type video where we're doing something about, basically it's a little soloing trick that I discovered years ago about how to add soul and feel into your solos. Then on Thursday, there's another piece of kit that I shall be reviewing. It is this thing down here. Can you see it there? The Sonicake Twiggy Blues. As you can see, it's all hooked up and part of my rig at the moment. I've been using it and you've been hearing it for a little bit of time now. So the review of that one is coming up on Thursday, and then on Friday, as you know, we're back on the beer again. Whispering John Robson. Where are we? Yes. Audio pots make a big difference to the tone, indeed. Yes. Looking forward to the Twiggy Blues. Want one, but not many reviews. Well, spoiler alert, Jimmy. Get one. It's. I loved the Sonicake Rock stage, which Ozzy, who I haven't seen in this evening, just occurred to me. Yes, Anton, I did do a review of the Green Behringer pedal. It's basically a Tube Screamer clone, and if you like Tube Screamers and you got 20 quid to spend, buy one. You won't regret it. I did a review of that ages ago when I first got it. Where was I? Yes, the Twiggy Blues. I loved the Sonicake Rock stage. That was a great thing, but it was a little bit too sort of 80s hair metal in terms of the tones for me after I played with it for a while, which is why I didn't keep it. Ended up selling it to one of my students. But the Twiggy Blues is, well, dare I say it, some people have compared it to a Dumble tone. And if I ever get the chance to play through a Dumble, I'll let you know how close it is. But it's a great, if you like that sort of just on the verge of breakup kind of tone, then that is definitely a pedal to check out. The white Telecaster behind me, yeah, that's one of Colin's. That's Colin, who lives local to me and is a good friend of this channel. He's Colin Falcon. There he goes. There he is, just saying it's one of my projects. Yeah, it's one of Colin's projects, and I've just been, he's lent it to me, and I've just been doing a bit of a solo with it today that's going to be part of a video that I'm doing about it. And anyway, chaps, we're coming up to the hour mark and I'm running low on beer, and I think this is an opportune moment to wrap proceedings up for yet another week. Thank you once again for turning up and watching a fat, bald northern gobshite talking cobblers for an hour. It's been a blast. I enjoy it every week. I look forward to it every week. And as long as you chaps keep turning up, I'll keep on doing it. But once again, for now, I'll say thank you for all turning up. It's been an absolute pleasure. Cheers, everyone. But time, gentlemen, please.